Hi, I'm Nicola, the Bonnie Gardener. To this week's episode. Autumn has well and truly arrived, and this acer behind me, which we saw earlier in the year, has turned a lovely shade of red. It's really one of the stars of the garden. Autumn is one of my favourite times of year. I love the colours and I love the crunch of leaves underneath the feet. Some of the other plants that are looking really great in the garden just now are dahlias, blueberries, prunus or ornamental cherries, and viburnum. The first video that I'm going to show today is of a place that's very, very special to me, my allotment. This is where I first started to garden and I learned all about gardening. It's now in the trusted hands of my mum and dad. It's a gorgeous day, so we've come along to help Mum and Dad at the allotment. The allotment is the place where my love of gardening began and has grown and developed. Back in 2011, I lived in a flat in the city centre and I didn't have access to a garden or an outdoor space. So I was lucky enough to get my hands on an allotment after being on a waiting list for a couple of years. The allotment was basically derelict, it was full of rotten raised beds and it had knee-high grass. But over the years I've worked together with my friends and family to bring it back into use. An allotment is mostly used to grow fruit and veg, so that's mostly annual produce. So behind us we've got 4 raised beds and that's where we grow and rotate our crops. We've also got a shed where we keep all the tools and we've got a pond for wildlife. After a few years of tending the allotment and learning about growing fruit and vegetables, I got a house of my own and it had its own garden. So since then, really the allotment has been in the hands of my mum and dad and it looks better than it's ever looked. If you want to inquire about getting an allotment, I recommend that you get in touch with your local council or go along to your local allotment plot and make some inquiries. So some allotments are owned by different private landlords and things like that, even universities. So speaking to people and going and making yourself known can sometimes put you up that list. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you're interested in getting into gardening but you don't have your own outdoor space, I'd really recommend you to look into allotments near you. I've been working on tidying up this border, but I think I'm disturbing the nests of lots of midges. It's getting a bit unbearable, so I'm off to the shed. There's not any midges in the shed, but it is quite a lot colder, so I've put a big jacket on. At this time of year in the autumn, lots of people talk about putting the garden to bed for winter. So what that means is basically cutting back perennials to the ground, pruning shrubs and making borders look neat and tidy. But that's really a term that fills me with dread, because to me the winter garden is as important structurally as any other time of the year, so in the spring and the summer and the autumn too. So what plants can you clean up at this time of year? Well, annual plants, because they're not going to come back next year, and some perennial plants that aren't going to retain their structure through the winter. So ones like geraniums and lady's mantle, because they go a bit brown and sometimes go a bit mushy towards the winter time, so really you want rid of them now. So what plants do we want to keep? Well, that's perennials that keep their structure all through the winter, so they stay nice and upright. And we like that because those structures capture the frost, so they look really pretty on a cold day. The seed heads are also really good for wildlife, a good source of food and a good source of nesting material. I'd also keep perennial grasses because they just create a nice sense of flow and movement through the winter garden. Some people think that gardens are just a space to be enjoyed for half of the year, so the spring and the summer, even the early autumn. But really, gardens are something that you should be embraced for 12 months of the year. We've got to remember that gardens aren't just for us, but they're for wildlife too, and they need habitats and they need food every single month. The autumn and winter months are also great times to start looking ahead to the future. So we don't just want to spend all of our time doing tidy up jobs, because it can get a little bit boring and even a little bit depressing. So a great thing to do at this time of year is to plant bulbs for the spring. The next video is Greenbank Gardens in the south of Glasgow. It's a great example of a garden that looks equally good in the depths of winter as it does in spring. bank gardens is divided into rooms through a series of evergreen yew hedging. It just goes to show how important it is to have nice crisp lines, and now is a great time to do that on your hedges if you haven't already. A lot of people ask me why the hedge in front of my garden is so bad, considering I'm a professional gardener. In this next video, I'm going to show you the reason why.